This week on the Old School RuneScape Update, Varlamore, the Final Dawn's Delve Boss rewards are back in focus with a new take on the Avernic Treads, the Eye of Ayak, Confliction Gauntlets, and the Demonic Digger. Also, we take a look at what Mod North means as Jagex's new CEO. This is the Old School RuneScape Update, episode 68, recorded Saturday, March 15th, 2025. Begging for Treads. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Old School RuneScape Update. I am mostly in my right frame of mind and in the right set of sorts this week to deliver this podcast. Compared to the state I was in last week, but I'm also, of course, here with Sirion, as he is here for most every edition of OSRS Update.
Hey, back to normal after a little bit of a weird few weeks.
You can say that again. I don't know that I still feel 100% normal based on everything, but. Just a bit of a rundown as to what happened with that. Many folks will have, of course, heard the RuneFest episode that we recorded on RuneFest weekend. I was slated to fly home the next Friday, and throughout most of that week, I had been battling something, and it just got really, really bad on that Friday. And when I got home on the second part of that Friday due to the time change, to the point where I took the unprecedented step of just canceling both podcasts that weekend because I was quite honestly, some of the worst sick feeling that I had been in a long time. But thankfully we're here and we're able to talk this week.
You were like, oh, when I come back, I'll just record the RS3 episode. I'll just raw dog it, basically. I'm like, oh, what are you doing to yourself? So maybe it's for the better. For the listeners, it is like a unicum that we have to cancel a show because of sick. And someone being sick. And
it really raises the specter of what the RuneFest experience was if there's going to be that kind of disruption for in-person RuneFest. But more on that in another year, another decade perhaps down the road. But of course, in the meantime, welcome to OSRS Update, everybody. If you want to follow along, full show notes over at update.show/OS. We also, of course, have a friends chat in-game, which you can find at BitsBytes, and a community Discord over at update.show/Discord. And the whole, of course, business behind this podcast is to discuss the old school news of the week and, of course, what we've been doing. And if you want to have the podcast delivered whenever it goes out, the best way to do that is to subscribe over at update.show/OS. So are you ready to delve into what feels
Shane. Oh my god.
Oh, that was totally unplanned.
Oh, sure it was.
That was totally unplanned. I was going to say, are you ready to delve into what feels like the final gambit of Varlamore rewards in terms of however many iterations we've seen?
Sure.
This is it, right?
Yep.
We're sure, right?
I hope so.
Okay. Well, starting off, this reward block showcases the full set of the reward proposals for the Delve Boss, which, of course, we have gone back and forth on numerous times. So they're starting off, as they say, with something familiar, the Avernic Treads, which is an iteration on the original design instead of something that was replaced entirely. And the idea behind this is that the boots will now be able to drop in a form that can be immediately worn, with the ability to upgrade them by using the Cerberus boots on them one at a time. Which is what people were asking for, I think. It's like, don't give me this whole damn tech tree of boots.
Yeah, I have something to say about this.
Please.
I have much to say about this entire post, but I have something to say about this specifically, which And this doesn't just apply to boots; it applies to a lot of things. And I think there needs to be a discussion about this in the community, and I don't know how to best have that discussion. So basically, it comes down to the fact that the main thing that Jagex seems to be preventing here, right, is they want to make sure that Ranger boots and their upgrade, which is that's the Pegasian boots. Yeah, Pegasian boots continue to be relevant, right? Like they don't want to devalue Ranger boots by having another drop that is better, essentially obsoletes the Ranger boots, which over time will devalue it as a drop. And I get that, but I think it is also starting to create this what's the right word? This sort of bottleneck, right? It's starting to create this situation where everything in terms of Ranger gear now hinges on those boots. So imagine you are an Iron Man and you're doing like hundreds of medium clues and you're unlucky on this one drop. It basically blocks your entire ranged progression.
Well, you see what the bottleneck is. It's that if you look right now at the exchange price, Ranger boots are 38.2 mil with a drop rate of 1 out of 1,133 in a medium casket. And, it's always been that way. I'm not saying that is a problem, but what you end up creating is you create a cascade effect as you work your way up from Ranger boots to Pegasian boots and then all the way up to the Avernic Treads.
Now, I get the argument, right? And I think what they're doing here with the Avernic Treads kind of works around the issue by saying, hey, you're going to get an upgrade anyway to your, like, you're going to get a good weapon anyway, like, good boots anyway, without the Ranger boots, just through, like, a different thing. And once you get the Ranger boots and you update it with the crystal to make Pegasian boots, and then you combine it, you get an even better set of boots. Fine, it works around the issue, but why are we so bloody tight to keeping the Ranger's boots a requirement for the best in slot thing? How many people are actually in the end game at any given time, right? If this was RS3, it'd be like, yeah, that's like everybody is there. But I feel, especially in old school, there's a much healthier distribution of players across the different level bands. And as long as we can make sure that new players sort of start filling that out from the bottom, whether that's alts or otherwise, there will always be a demand for these items. Yeah, maybe there's no sync anymore. That would be the only downside. But it's not like, for example, let me try find a good example. Like the whip, for example, right? It's by far the best in slot item. Still sells for a lot, for a good chunk of money on a GE. Right?
Yep.
Even gear that is not best in slot can remain relevant because not everybody can afford it. Not everybody can wear it because they don't have the levels, right? There continues to be a use for it. So maybe this is the time where we need to divorce these things. And the same is going to come, like this discussion is going to also come into the next thing, which I believe is the Eye of Ayak, right? Which is meant to be a magic item which is not quite best in slot, so it's not going to overtake the shadow, but in some cases it might actually be good. And there was this whole discussion again around like, we need to make sure that the shadow always remains best in slot because it's this prestigious item that's worth almost 2 bill that only drops from raids. What's going to happen when we get raids 4?
Yeah.
In 2026. Like, what's that going to drop?
And you also have to realize is that, when you look at those legendary items like the shadow and whatnot, it is not feasible to look 5+ years down the line, and I choose 5 as a fairly safe number here, and think that things like the shadow and whatnot will still be best in slot after that. Over time,
Exactly.
things get power crept, and it's just a matter of choosing the right speed to engage with that power creep. As in, you don't necessarily want to dump it all on everybody right away, and you don't want to, make it so that that things like the shadow is what everybody's running around with because of the power associated with it. But you need to realize that this, by its very nature, is an MMO that is not in maintenance mode, is getting updates relatively frequently, and with that, you can of course look at the skill side and say maybe, they add a new skill training method to, I don't know, say crafting, or maybe even rune crafting, and that disrupts the meta there. And when you look at those sorts of things, those in many cases are seen as being less controversial than disrupting.
I don't know.
What we have on the combat side.
I don't know. I think you're underestimating it. We see a lot of, we saw a lot of problems around, for example, the shooting stars, right? When that became the new meta, there was definitely a little bit of disruption.
Yeah.
And if I see discussions, people actually sort of dislike how Winter Toad has become the only really valid way to train fire making, right? Like, there is, I think, general consensus that the Winter Toad fire making XP rates were a mistake. But good luck trying to
good
go
luck
back
changing
on
those
right?
now.
So, but I don't think it's necessarily the case that, skilling power creep we don't mind. Like, I think people in general are very conservative in this community, and I think, that's commendable. That's fine. But then we start running into the problem in that, if we already have established our upper bound, which is the shadow, and we have already established, we have already sort of filled out the horizontal content, because the longer time goes on, the more we're going to fill different niches, and there's really not that much more we can do. What do we do? Like, how do we get a delve boss, which is meant to be one of the hardest encounters in the game? How do we give it appropriate rewards? Right? And like I said, we go back to Raids 4. What's Raids 4 going to drop? It has to be something that power creeps, because if it doesn't power creep, nobody's going to get it. It's not going to have value. Raids 4 is not going to be profitable. So that's a wider discussion that I think that that's one thing I always find hard to follow. I know that these discussions are being had on Reddit, but because these discussions always happen in the context of, in this case, the Avernic Treads and the Eye of Ayak, how do we go about sitting together, as a community and as Jagex together, and be like, how do we solve this bigger problem, right? Because right now I feel it's the same discussion over and over and over again. There's this 50-50 split between we want power creep, we don't want power creep. How do we get out of this loop?
That is the $1 million question, isn't it? Because I know there's, and even in my time in this community, I feel like I've witnessed in my time that there has been a drop in the number of people who are in that, ultra conservative, let's have no power creep bandwagon, and at the most extreme end of that, the people who don't want anything really to change beyond what was the 2007 time capsule. I think those people are becoming fewer and fewer, to the point that they probably don't have much of a stakeholder group anymore. But the point that this all brings up is that when you line all this up together, you start asking the question, well, how do you do this, and when is the time for the devs to just rip that Band-Aid off here? And is the situation and the solution we got for the Avernic Treads the way to go for this, where they start off as a base item and then they have something that you have the ability to upgrade over time with? Is that kind of the solution, that you basically have 2 items for this now?
I wish I could answer it. And just to go back, I do think that the solution for the treads is
It's
probably
elegant.
the best that we're gonna get,
Yeah.
given where the community stands right now.
Yeah.
But I also do think that we can't keep the Ranger boots alive indefinitely, and like at some point they have to die, right? I mean,
But they're still going to be damn good for what they are, even if they're just a clue item that's worth, a mil rather than 38 mil.
sure, yeah, exactly.
Like a plus
Um,
8 ranged attack bonus, as an example here. That's something that I think we should that we should look at, is if we, pull up the entire feat slot item, Ranger boots plus 8. That's the second best right now in game, next to the Pegasian boots. When you look at, of course, the robe tops and the top body pieces, then you're into the typical plus 30s and whatnot. But I think the reason that you look at something like the Ranger boots and you compare it to even, say, like a hand item slot, for example, you're looking at, plus 12 for the Barrows gloves and then plus 18 for the Zariate Van braces there. It's a question of what do you fill in those niche slots with, and maybe the answer to that is that there needs to be more horizontal content around side Ranger boots, aside from
yeah,
the God D'hide boots.
right, yeah.
Maybe that's the solution, because
It's hard
like,
to say. It's hard to say.
yeah, because I mean, ask yourself this: say God D'hide boot is plus 7, but the Ranger boots is plus 8. Which one do you pick?
Yeah, I mean, I have to pick the cheap one because I'm poor, but
Yeah, exactly. And then you go from Pegasian from there, and then that's how you get into this whole elite item category of the Avernic
yeah,
treads.
yeah.
But Eye of Ayak is also interesting because it's going to have a 3-tick attack speed, and the damage will sit between the Sanguesti Staff and Tubmic and Shadow, and they're framing this as the one-handed magic weapon aimed at speeding up your grind towards that shadow. And you get to,
I think that's fair. Like I
yeah,
think
like
that's
that's a good spot to be.
yeah, exactly. This will definitely sit above the Master Wand as well. Um, yeah,
Oh, but
between Sangresti. Oh yeah, Sang. Oh my God. Yeah, the Sangresti staff, huh?
but here's the fun part about the Eye of Ayak.
Mm-hmm.
Its special attack, 100% energy, has doubled accuracy with a 30% higher max hit, and drains magic defense equal to damage dealt. Now that's big. Anytime you can lower
Mm-hmm.
magic defense. So maybe this is a
Mm-hmm.
spec weapon, if anything. I don't know.
Well, that's I think the point that even after you get a shadow, you can use this in some
Yeah,
cases.
yeah. So, I mean, that's good. We also have the Confliction Gauntlets, requiring 90 hit points, another high-level hit point item, like the stuff we saw outside of Araxor.
This is meant to be the counterpart to the Rancor amulet, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. Upgrade to the Tormented Bracelet that provides you an extra 2% magic damage and bonus magic accuracy. And when crafted, it will be tradable. And I think that's also another thing that has been, waning back and forth in the community, is that, do you drop items that aren't tradable and then have somebody complete them and then have the final thing be tradable, or do you just drop the entire thing as being tradable from the beginning? Especially with such high requirements around it. Where do you land on that?
I like it because it basically means. Yeah, that's a good question, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
I kind of like the opposite, I think.
Just dropping it all tradable to begin with.
No, dropping a tradable
Okay.
but making the final reward untradable, which
All right.
means you need that 83 crafting in this case to actually create the items for yourself.
Yeah.
Which yeah, because right now the only thing it does is it puts you cashing out on this boss behind a skill gap. Well, a skill level basically. Whereas to me, if you want to play a pure PVM account with no, skilling whatsoever, you should still be able to get rich, in my opinion.
Yeah,
because we
that's
don't
fair.
have the assist system either. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, this seems. Do they explain why they go for this particular system? Because I would love to understand why this specifically. Because it sounds like an inconvenience.
Not in the news post.
I got a drop, right? I just want to earn money from the drop. Here I have to do like an extra step where I have to buy myself a tormented bracelet, upgrade it, and then sell it again, right? Whereas if I want to get this piece of gear, I mean, that's a one-time thing. I don't mind having to buy 2 different parts and combining them before I can unlock it. So the tradable and untradable in this case seem the wrong way around for me. So I'd look, and maybe somebody from the audience knows why they're doing it this way, or maybe you like it. Let me know, because I don't get it.
And like the one thing I see from this and other things that, are on the same sort of wavelength is that this provides a substantial anchor for high-level crafting in the game. Most of the time, I feel like crafting is probably one of the most useless skills in the game.
Yeah, but this is in general, I think, the case with jewelry. It forms like a pretty good reason to train crafting in this game. But yeah, again, apparently you can just buy yourself this stuff and not worry about the levels, which is unfortunate. Like, I know that people don't want to be, not everybody wants to be an Iron Man, but at the same time, you're forcing people to be, to get the level anyway to get the money, which that should be the easy part, earning money, in my opinion.
Yeah, because, like you said, if you want to just, dump this after you get the drop, that's something you should be able to do. So
exactly.
But yeah, let us know what you guys think about that crafting first aspect of it. And then we have something that is just totally lighthearted. The Demonic Digger. That I thought was a joke at first. A dragon-centric spade that is created through a burrowing appendage that they say is one of the little spike tips from the bottom of his shield. And the idea behind this is it creates the Demonic Digger that will require 65 crafting to assemble. There's that crafting requirement. And 65 farming to use. Spade actions will be processed instantly.
Yeah, I love this. This will make my farming runs. I mean, I assume this will also work with herb runs.
Well, yeah, because that's a spade action.
Quicker.
So
yeah, much quicker. So I would love that. At the same time, this feels like a really weird place to get a skilling drop from. No, right, but like, we have so many cool skilling activities in the game. And then they put such an amazing drop from a PVM boss.
Shovel.
Like, exactly. It feels thematically so weird. Like, this would be a cool quest reward.
It would.
Like, that's... I don't know.
Are you having problems with our community? Are you having problems and doubts with our community centric aspect of the game here?
No, not at all.
I'm just.
Mean, this seems like
you just
the thing
sound,
is.
Hang on, I just want to press pause for a minute because you sound very exacerbated right now.
Yes, but only because Jagex is making this a thing. They have full control over this. They have the full ability to say this is going to come from a skilling activity. And then they choose to do a little wordplay because it's a delve boss, and delve is basically digging, so you get a shovel from this boss. It's a meme.
Thanks to Freight27 on Reddit.
And if this was a cosmetic item, I would be all over it. Let's have meme cosmetic items. I don't give a damn. But this is like literally game changing for herb runs. It makes them so much quicker, right? And it's going to come from a delve boss, which means my Iron Man is never going to get this. Even though this doesn't sound like an item that should come from one of the hardest bosses in the game.
And that's the interesting bit, is you just said hardest boss in the game, which is what people have been clamoring for over the last number of months.
And we get an item you can use with 65 farming. This doesn't feel like the right place for this.
Well,
I will vote against it if this comes as a separate pull reward. Because this is not the place where it should be.
What if because isn't the idea behind the delve boss is that as you go deeper with it and as you continue your fight, that's the whole idea behind it, is to create the parallel to a kind of enrage type system. What if the demonic digger come early on in that push?
I mean, that makes it a little bit better. I guess we need rewards there as well, but at the same time, I still don't think it's I don't know. It sounds funny now, but down the line, people are gonna be like, here's a better idea, right? Here's an idea. Let's put Echo History in the game and make this a drop from Echo History.
Oh, now you're talking.
It's better. It's strictly better than what they're proposing here. So yeah, I don't get it. I think it's yeah.
Yeah. I just want to read from the RuneFest overview on the delve boss. Defeating the Doom on deeper levels increases the chance of receiving unique drops. And some unique drops will only appear at deeper, more dangerous levels. So there is a chance that your shovel could come from, the first lower tier of delve boss levels. Just saying that there is a chance they could put the shovel there.
Sure.
So, but we don't know, right? Like this is all very vague at this point. They've been mum on, whether or not we'll get a poll on these rewards. I think we probably will, given the way things have gone, but maybe, that's the reason to not pull these. I don't know. We'll have to, of course, wait and see on this, but I feel like this has been the ever continuing Varlamore Final Dawn delve boss pendulum that just goes back and forth, and with no satisfying conclusion. So hopefully we're near the end. That's my take on it. But okay,
it's like they solved the Avernic Treads and they decided to make a new problem with the shovel.
You're not wrong. You ready to go north?
North?
Yeah, with the new CEO.
All right.
Yeah. We got the announcement that Mod Pips is stepping down after 8 years as Jagex CEO, and his replacement is Mod North, who has nearly maxed in old school account and worked for Jagex from 2015 to 2018, but more recently as an advisor with CVC Capital. And, you know, I think the thing that I want to walk away from with this on the old school side is that they were very upfront with them saying that there will never be microtransactions in old school. That's the old school side of this talk, I think, that we walk away from.
Mm-hmm.
The RS3 side of the conversation is just, I think, just more downright confusing on it, and you know, maybe that has an impact on us on old school as well, because I feel like what has been said with this is that, you know, it is very clearly an attempt to get out in front of Mod North's history, which, if you look back at the other companies that he's worked with, they have made mobile casino games, basically. And when you tee all that stuff up and you start looking at that for anything RuneScape, that'll have people running for the nearest fire exit, which you and I both know that if anything that even remotely smells like microtransactions comes near old school, we have immediate problems on that. So what is your take on Mod North as CEO, primarily for old school? Do you I feel bad for saying this, but do you take the video that was posted in the Q&A that was posted at their word in relation to no microtransactions for old school?
I wish I could. I don't know. It's I don't want to be negative in a sense, but
no, because he deserves the full chance to prove himself and bring his company vision forward.
Absolutely. The thing that worries me is, like, he was really putting himself in the corner, right? I think that you cannot say there will never be microtransactions in old school, because you are excluding a massive possibility for monetization. Now, I know how the community would respond, probably, but I also think it's a knee-jerk reaction, and I think there are viable models around microtransactions that would work for the game.
Correct.
Should old school get them? Maybe, maybe not. But I think it is too early to say no, never. Right?
The one that I would be jumping up and down about is basically cosmetic keepsake keys, allowing me to change the appearance based on items I already have in game. I will pay Jagex a couple dollars for the ability to do that.
For example, because people always were like, "Oh, cosmetics would break my immersion because, you know, yada yada yada." Making it existing items in the game might still be immersion breaking if people wear the stupidest shit everywhere, but to be honest, they do anyway. So I don't think that's a new problem. So that then begs the question, like, what are we preventing there? So there's that, right?
Yeah.
That worries me a little bit, that he would just go and say, "Nope, we're not doing microtransactions ever," because that to me is, I don't think that's a promise you can keep. And if that's a promise you mean to keep, you have just basically tied one hand behind your back for the remainder of your CEO period.
Yeah, and
that's the thing that worries me.
Yeah, and I want to bring one thing up. I won't go too much into it, but you yourself do professionally have a bit of experience in terms of the monetization of apps and the way the modern internet works. And you are aware that there are forms of monetization out there that are not inherently predatory, that when done right can serve as an effective means of revenue for a game. Hence why you're saying he shouldn't just tie his hands behind the back and say there will never be a microtransaction in old school.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's the background behind that.
Yes, that's the summary, essentially. So, yeah, what else to say? I mean, I am still cautiously optimistic, I think is the word that I would use. He gets the game, he plays it, and I think that's good. The thing is, right, like, and this comes with RS3 specifically, where it's like, oh, you know, we want to strike the right balance with microtransactions, and a lot of people are talking, oh, we're going to get rid of microtransaction and replace it with something else. But from a business perspective, right, if you can get that something else and microtransactions, it's like a double win, right? The way that monetization and capitalism and capital ventures work is that if more money can be made, more money will be made, right? The only reason for Mod North to say there will not be microtransactions in old school RuneScape is because he believes strongly that people would quit faster, that the subscription money, the potential of subscription money in the future is less than what you could earn right now with microtransaction in old school. That's what he's saying, right?
Yeah.
The question is, how, like, is that true? I don't know, because
the financial numbers that they post publicly and are required to post in the UK at this point are 2 years out of date. We're getting the end of 2023 numbers in about 10 days. Just for a fun side note on that.
Yeah. So, you know, that's like another thing. Like, I feel. Look, I'm all in favor of a CEO that wants the best for the game, but there will be commercial pressures on making the most possible money, and he seems to have, you know, talked himself into a corner a little bit, and I'm going to be very curious to see how that's going to go, because he has really raised the stakes. Right now. He has gone on record saying no microtransactions in old school, and more balanced microtransactions in RS3.
Oh, and by the way, also the RS3 monetization model is not sustainable.
Yes.
Whether that means, you know, it's not sustainable for the amount of microtransactions they'd have to ratchet up to, you know, bring in the amount of money that they're bringing in based on, you know, current economic pressures, or whether that means that they can't keep the appropriate number of people in the game if they were to add those same levels of microtransactions to it. So there's lots of questions, and I feel like when you get down to it at the end of the day, I feel like the RS3 side has a lot more ambiguity on it than the old school side, maybe, in relation to what Mod North is promising and talking about here. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah.
And I just feel like the message that was put out is that, hey, let's not rock the old school boat at this point in time. And it's as simple as that. I think that's what it was. So.
Yeah.
All right. What have we been doing in game? You want to go first, or shall I?
I can go first.
Go for it.
So, yeah, I had to take a little bit of a step back around RuneFest and my vacations, of course, but I have been picking things back up. I got myself the Twin Flame Staff. I wanted that for a while now because of the buff to fire damage.
And
right?
you bought it. You didn't farm it, right?
I didn't farm it. No, I bought it. The filthy main that I am. I bought it. And I managed, I think it took me, I mean, you were there actually in person. I think it took me like 1 or 2 extra attempts, but I managed to get my Zoa kill. for the hard diary, which made me really happy. I think a bunch of the PvM practice that I did during leagues, as well as, being a little bit more comfortable with switches and some of the other combat mechanics because of the mid-game bosses that they added, that did help, but I do think that I needed that extra little bit of DPS finish that boss, and I did. I even went as far as buy Sunfire runes for the extra bonus, only to find out that they weren't being consumed.
Why is that?
I don't know. I think it's because there's like a infinite source of fire runes in from the staff, right?
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I feel
so you were basically hoping for the extra little benefits from the Sunfire runes, but it's like, hey, you're casting a fire spell with a fire staff. We're just going to use the inbuilt aspect on it. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. That was a little bit funny, but all in all, I guess I managed to do it. That was my biggest achievement. I don't know. I like that part of overcoming things, right? Like Fire Cape, first kill was amazing. Finishing some of the harder quest bosses feels good, and this also felt good as sort of an account milestone as well. So yeah, I decided to finish up the hard diary there. I did the hard Mortania diary as well, now that we have proceeded far enough with quests, which leaves only the wilderness, which I have said on record and I will say it again, I will not put a step in the wilderness while Wildy CCTV is active. I think that is
we should talk about that one day on the show. I know we mentioned it in passing, but
I think we've talked about this on the show, but if we haven't, then if you're the person that uses it, I despise you, and that's it. I think that's sort of my opinion on it.
Yeah, and it becomes a question of whether or not Jagex can shut things down like that effectively, right? Because that does, depending on your own perspective, that does go against the spirit of the wilderness. But then I know, from my own dirty PvP past, not in RuneScape but other games, that if you get an advantage like that, you're going to take that advantage.
Yeah, I just think I don't like the wilderness to begin with, right? I just dislike the entire concept of losing like part of my progress or part of my wealth because somebody likes stalking noobs and killing them. I've never enjoyed killing other people unless it's in like an organized concept,
like Castle Wars,
like Castle Wars, Soul Wars, and even in Soul Wars, I will just go sit in the corner, and I will kill the ghosts, and I will gather the crystals and use them on the soul obelisk, right?
Yeah,
that's the most like. So, but
that's also a good strategy too, because there are leagues tasks, and that's the only time I go to Soul Wars, where you need to, just win a game, and then you can get all sorts of immaculate items from doing that.
Yeah. So no, it's well, yeah, CCTV to me is really like, hey, at least normally without CCTV, you have to at least find me, right? I have the advantage of many worlds, lots of places. You have to actually go and search for me, rather than you just go to where I am on a different world, you quickly log in and snipe me, right? Like that to me defeats the whole point. So anyway, I digress. So that's what I've been doing. Other than that, getting back to Slayer, got a super lucky drop with a Dragon Harpoon. Always nice, that dopamine hit of getting a rare drop. Made that Slayer task worth it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That is one thing I think that's been added over time, is that there are, that is what Slayer is for. and
Yes.
you can do that without going the full PVM route if that's not something
Yeah,
that you're
I don't
interested
know.
in.
Slayer will never be my favorite skill. It will always probably be in the bottom half of like how much I enjoy skills, but
Thank God.
I can endure it in some, like, depending on what mood I am in, I can endure it. And I've been doing little bits, like doing a task, 2 tasks a day. You know, it's fine. It's fine. I need to train my ranged up anyway, so
Hey, at least
yeah.
we have the maniacal monkeys. You could go there if you wanted to chin those now.
Yeah, but that's expensive.
It
So,
is. It is.
I don't have, yeah. So no, I don't know what I'm doing next. I'm sort of kinda trying to get base 75 on all of my skills, but Runecraft is lagging behind at 69. Nice.
Not.
And that's it.
Well, okay, you could say nice, but I was just gonna say, just look at the rune crafting training methods you have available for now, right?
It's Guardians of the Rift. That's the problem.
Yeah, for now. For
now,
yeah, because you'll get the blood and soul runes later.
yeah, but they're slower. They're only profitable, but they're way slower. To my knowledge, there is no faster way than Guardians of the Rift for rune crafting.
Right, and that's
well, I think there's like combination runes might be faster.
But that's that same thing we were saying about what we said about the fire making XP with Wintertote. If that was in that same category like that, at what point does do the dynamics?
I would trade the Wintertote and Guardians of the Rift XP rates any day, because I'd rather do line fire making than run altars.
Yeah, exactly. And that's my point, is that at what point does the inertia and skill power creep let there be a faster rune crafting training method? But that's a topic for another day, I think.
I'm just checking. Yeah, so XP per hour for Guardians of the Rift is about 40k for me. 40k per hour. I could get slightly more right now at the Urania altar. Slightly. Once you unlock Day Altar Essence, that's when the Urania altar all of a sudden becomes much faster.
Yeah.
So probably that is something to look forward to.
Fair enough. As for me, I didn't tell you about this because I was saving this for the show and a bit of a surprise. But I have actually been doing a bit of Tithe Farm, because I still have not, after all these years, I still have not unlocked my weeded patches and infinite watering can.
Yes, they are very, very nice.
It's completing the farming kit is basically what that is, and it was just something I wanted to do because I do see a path forward for going for 99 farming, and I just get annoyed of having to fill the watering can up, and that's actually the main thing. I don't necessarily mind weeding my patches, and I don't necessarily think that, and people are gonna yell at me for this, but I don't necessarily see the farmer's outfit for its 2.5% XP boost as a must have based on how much Tithe Farm you have to do.
No, it's not worth it. I do think the Grid Colors can and the altar weeding is worth it. The can, really, I find it mostly useful for like tree runs. So
yeah, that and allotments if you do allotments.
Yes, that too. Well, I don't tend to water my allotments. So.
And here's the thing I wanted to try with this. I remember back when I was looking at what the farming kit looked like, and this would have still been before I had full graceful, and even with that before the run energy changes. I thought that I'd just wait to do Tithe Farm eventually until I had full graceful, right? And that happened, of course, a long time ago. Now, with the run energy changes and being, I believe I am level 74 agility right now, would it be at all surprising to you if I told you that I could do an entire run through the Tithe Farm, one cycle, and my run energy wouldn't go below 90 without even wearing Graceful with the run energy changes that have been in place? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, they really, really made that a lot easier.
Yeah, so if you have north of 70 plus agility, you don't even need Graceful now for the Tithe Farm.
I am only slightly jealous that I did it before.
And that was the thing I had to double check on that, because I thought, holy crap, I'm not even going below like 95 energy here running Graceful. What happens if I turn Graceful off for this?
Oh my god, that is...
Because I remember being told when I was first starting to, look and say maybe I need to go do Tithe Farm way back in the day, and I didn't have Graceful and I was, in the 50 agilities, I was told you're going to need stamina potions for this.
Jeez.
No. So that is one of the pieces of content that the Ren Energy update of last year that has substantially changed.
Fair.
For that. So it's really not too much of an imposition. I thought it was going to be, and I thought, oh yeah, Run Energy changes came out. I better go have another look at that, and it kind of just flows. So I was pleased with that.
I have never really hated Tithe Farm, if I'm honest. I think... Yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah,
basically.
As long as you just go get the can and the
the
Weebus.
I might go back for the herb sack, because that's nice for some Slayer trip.
Right. Okay. But no, aside from that, just kind of getting back into the swing of things with regular herb runs, which, by the way, this guy here was doing herb runs in the RuneFest.
Best in the queue.
In the RuneFest queues. So that's how many of those you do. Just thought I'd share that.
I don't stop doing them ever, because they are
the best. It's the best passive money the game has.
It is the best money per time invested that the game has. It's $250,000 for 5 to 10 minutes of work each time. And farming is by far my highest skill. I'm about to hit 96 in probably a few days. I'm about to hit 80 herblore from cleaning all of the herbs in a few days, right? And I'm doing the birdhouses on Fossil Island at the same time usually. That's a bunch of passive hunter XP. And don't forget that the bird nests actually also make a good chunk of money. If you're not doing these runs at least once or twice a day, you're missing out.
And that's also partially how you were able to afford that Twin Flame staff.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I'm already back up to a 10-ish mil cash stack, so I'm looking at what's going to be my next item. Might be Burning Claws, because I need a nice spec weapon.
Okay.
I bought a Crystal Halberd because I'm trying to get combat achievements, and the Crystal Halberd has an amazing special attack, so it can help me with some of the speed tasks.
Yeah, and that's what farming enables in the game, and Hunter as well. And we bring it back to first principles as we start discussing these things here. And I know everybody who's listening has probably heard that, but in the off chance you don't do these, go ahead and look up what some of the best herbs are for that, and you'll be surprised. And maybe take a trip to the Tithe Farm as well if you like the farming skill. But I think that's me for the week. Anything else before we go?
No, we need to go and get back into our quests.
Yeah, that'll hopefully be next week, based on scheduling and how everyone's feeling. But big huge thank you, of course, to all the listeners who listened to the RuneFest episode and are back listening to this one. We should be back to the usual OSRS update schedule, barring major catastrophe. And I say that only in jest because of everything that's happened over the last couple weeks. But it is just good to be back. And if you want to look at any of the show notes for this episode, update.show/OS. You can also subscribe there on your favorite podcast listening service. We're on Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Spotify, and more. Anything else from you before we say goodbye for this week?
It's good to be back, baby.
Indeedy dums. Alrighty, everybody. We'll see you next week for another episode of the Old School RuneScape Update. See you then, everyone. Take care.
Bye.